Nothing about what's happening is normal. Holding this operation while he's in Mar-a-Lago, not normal. Why was he not in DC when this major operation of going into Venezuela and taking Maduro happened? Yes, Trump went in, launched attacks, and captured their president Maduro and has him in custody. During this press conference, he says Maduro has been charged in the Southern District of New York for his drug trafficking crimes. He said that the United States is going to basically govern Venezuela for now until they can do a peaceful transfer of power to new leaders. And it sounds like it's going to be Gonzalez and Machado. So, guys, this is really wild what's happening here. This is not normal. Having the U.S. military go in and invade a country without authorization from Congress.
What do you make of this? It's a very, very big development in a months-long effort against Venezuela.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to hear what the president has to say in his remarks from the White House that are planned for just a little under an hour from now. Ali, I feel like in your heart of hearts, when you think about what the United States just did, I think there are very few Americans right now who have any idea why the United States did this.
So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. We're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place.
I mean, so much to absorb there.
All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen.
What's up, family? So, what just happened in Venezuela is one of the wildest thing I've ever seen in modern politics. President Trump, yeah, that same Trump the media been crying about for years, just pulled off one of the coldest military operations in history. This man really said, you know what, enough is enough, and he snatched the socialist dictator Nicolás Maduro right out the seat like a surprise eviction on a Tuesday morning. And now Venezuelans all around the world are celebrating. And I'm talking Miami, Colombia, all over Latin America, even inside Venezuela. And they're in the streets dancing, waving flags, cheering, crying tears of joy. Why? Because for the first time in decades, they finally actually got hope. Like real hope, not fake hope and change mess. I'm talking real life freedom, bro. So, see, a lot of people don't even realize how messed up Venezuela been under Maduro. This dude had people eating out of the trash, like walking for miles just to find basic groceries, kids starving, inflation so bad that money literally had no value. So like imagine carrying around a backpack full of a hundred of dollar bills and still not being able to buy bread. That's how broke the country was. And this ain't some desert wasteland. Venezuela is a gold mine. Beautiful beaches, insane mountains, Amazon rainforest, oil, natural resources, everything, right? It's literally one of the richest countries in Latin America. And yet the people living there have been broke, hungry, and desperate for years. Why? Because socialism took over. And Maduro and his boys ran it straight into the ground, straight dictatorship energy. And you speak out, you disappear type of vibes. You try to leave, good luck. You try to stay, you suffer. That was the setup. And I want to give you guys a bit of a history lesson just to add some context to this as well, to go a little bit deeper. Um, how Venezuela got to this point in the first place. Because some people out here acting like it was just bad luck. It was socialism plain and simple. And I'm not talking about the cute little TikTok free college and healthcare type of socialism. I'm talking straight government takes everything, shuts down private business, nationalize all industries type socialism. So Venezuela used to be one of the richest countries back in the 70s and 80s to be exact. They had oil money flowing, big cities booming, middle class rising. People from all over were trying to move into Venezuela not out. But then here came Hugo Chavez in the late 90s with that let's give everything to the people type pitch. Sounds great, right? But everybody eats, everybody wins type of vibe. But in real life, that's not how this works. You start taking private companies and putting them under government control. And what happens? The people who actually know how to run the business leave, the talent leaves, and the investors pull out. It's like if you got a barbershop popping, right? Making money, clients stacked, fresh fades all day, and the government walks in and say, hey, this is for the people now. And you can't set your own prices, and we're going to choose who works here. So now imagine the best barber dips, right? The clippers break and your lineup start looking like it was done with a lawnmower type stuff. So that's what happened to the entire industries in Venezuela. They destroyed their economy from the inside out. So oil is their main export. Like 90% of their money comes from oil. But when the government took over the oil companies, guess what? They ran them into the ground. Production dropped. Equipment got outdated. Nobody wanted to work, and they couldn't fix the pipelines. Meanwhile, prices dropped globally, and boom, their economy crashed. Like face planted. And instead of admitting, yo, we messed up, what did Maduro and them do? They started printing more money. And do you know what happens when a government starts printing more money with nothing to back it up? It's called hyperinflation. That's when your money starts losing value so fast, it might as well be toilet paper. So imagine going to buy eggs, and by the time you walk to the register, the price already doubled. That's what Venezuelans were dealing with. People were carrying bags of money, literal garbage bags of cash just to buy groceries. But the groceries weren't even there because the store shelves were empty. The trucks weren't moving. The farmers stopped farming. The country straight up collapsed. And let's not even talk about crime, because once the economy tanked, people got desperate. The cartels and gangs took over. Cities became war zones. Kidnappings went up. Violence exploded. And people were leaving the country by millions, seeking asylum, coming here to United States of America and other countries. Like it was like a literal mass exodus, walking through Colombia, crossing into Brazil, going anywhere they could. And the wildest part, a lot of them came right here to United States and started warning us, hey, we seen this movie before. Don't fall for the socialism talk. It don't end well, right? So yeah, Trump launched the operation and yanked Maduro out of the paint. And of course, the Venezuelan people were cheering. So I want you guys to check out this next clip of Venezuelans actually cheering and actually feeling relieved.
Bombing Venezuela right now. It is 2:35 a.m. and Pete Kegsbrook, fucking cosplay G.I. Joe, is bombing Venezuela right now. It is 2:35 a.m. and Pete Kegsbrook, fucking cosplay G.I. Joe, is literally bombing Venezuela. You guys didn't stop them when they were bombing boats in the ocean. You didn't stop them when they fucking took a tanker off the coast of Venezuela like a bunch of fucking pirates. You guys didn't say shit when they bombed Nigeria less than 2 weeks ago. What the fuck are you guys doing? We are the terrorists. We are exporting error to the rest of the world. What the fuck is it going to take for you people to remove this dementia-ridden patient who needs to be in a fucking padded cell at this point?
Going into another country with enough firepower to take their president and then saying you're going to charge their president with criminal charges in our country is such an insane breach of sovereignty. I'm like, so shook.
Just so we're all aligned in 2026, we know we're not the good guys, right?
Okay, well, if you're not a bot, which you might be, I don't even care. Do you know what happens when the United States starts bombing and invading a sovereign country?
To be more clear, the United States bombed Venezuela and then abducted their president and his wife.
Be honest. Who's secretly rooting for Venezuela and Iran?
Donald Trump, yo sé que posiblemente tú no vayas a ver este video. Yo lo sé, lo tengo claro. Pero coño, no nos puedes quitar el privilegio de mostrarnos una foto de ese coño de su madre tras las rejas, ¿vale? Por favor, te lo pedimos. Hoy es el mejor día de nuestras vidas para todos esos venezolanos. Dios mío, hoy es un día bendecido que nunca vamos a olvidar.
Yo creo que nadie entiende la emoción. Pero desde mis 7 años me tocó vivir en un país donde me arrebataron mi infancia, me arrebataron todo.
Stop bombing Venezuela!
Morning, the U.S. launched a massive criminal bombing campaign on Venezuela. Since when does the Trump administration have the moral, legal, or even political right to put another president on trial?
Donald Trump in the USA! Donald Trump in the USA! Stop bombing Venezuela now! Stop bombing Venezuela now! Biggest...
So there you have it, right? So look, the game changed because Trump stepped in and said, nah, we're not doing this no more. He sent the military in, ran a surgical strike. And just like that, Maduro gone. Poof. Caught this man slippery, probably in some, I don't know, Gucci flip-flops, thinking he untouchable. Now he in custody. And instantly, bro, you saw the reaction from the people. That alone should tell you everything you need to know. Like, if people out here celebrating your arrest, in this case, the Venezuelans you guys seen in this clip, that means you've been the problem and they ain't mad, they relieved, and that tells you everything you need to know. But see, while Venezuelans are celebrating, guess who's crying, as you guys can see with this picture that's shown at the end of the clip, as you guys see on the screen? The liberals. The mainstream media, the leftists, the Democrats, all of them are mad, and they're in their feelings talking about, oh, my God, Trump is starting wars. He's taking over country. This is all about oil. Like, bro, shut up for real. Because why y'all upset that people finally got freed from a dictator? Like, make it make sense. Y'all been claiming y'all about human rights and freedom, but the moment a socialist gets taken down, y'all start boohooing and crying about like somebody stole your avocado toast. I'm just confused. Like, it's embarrassing. So let's be real. These people don't care about Venezuelans. They just hate Trump. You see the sign say arrest Trump for whatever reason. That's all it is. So if Obama did this exact same operation, they'll be giving him a Nobel Peace Prize for it. And doing TikTok dances in the streets. But because it's Trump, they want to act like it's invading a peaceful utopia or something. So Venezuela been a failed state for years. I broke it down for you. Been a failed state. Not a literal state of the United States, but it been in a failed state. And Trump didn't start a war. He just ended a reign of terror. And that's what people are not getting. They're not understanding because they don't want to. They have selective hearing. See, a lot of times when people want to hear what they want to hear, misconstrued is obviously because they came in with an intention to have a narrative, because obviously they're in their feelings and they're taking it personal and they're not objective enough to see the actual sole purpose of what's going on. So before I clear up the media lies, right? A lot of them are saying, oh, well, this is for oil. And I want you guys to see the clip in regards of United States utilizing oil from Venezuela. Check it out.
Even need Venezuelan oil. And I can kind of understand your point, because if you look at just total oil production, look, this is up until 2005. The US was there, Venezuela was there, Saudi Arabia was there. But as you probably know, since then, everything has changed. Look, American output has gone through the roof, way above Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela has gone basically to the floor. And that's kind of post-Chavez, Maduro. They're one of the minnows now, I think 21st biggest producer in the world. So again, that question, why should America care? Well, in the US, that big rise is largely down to this. It's down to the shale revolution. So you've got fracking all around the US producing extraordinary amounts of crude oil. Look at total oil reserves around the world. The higher these bars are, the more oil there is in the ground, so that hasn't yet been taken out of the ground. So there you've got Saudi, Iran, Iraq, all of the usual suspects. But the biggest of all, and this is according to various different sources, the biggest of all is Venezuela. And what's that oil? It's the heavy, tarry stuff that you might well want to put into those American refineries. And there is really only one other place in the world that has a kind of serious amount of heavy oil other than Canada and Venezuela. And lo and behold, guess where that is? It's Russia.
They are not going to be very happy. So China buys oil from Venezuela at about a 20 to 30% discount. So they get discounted oil, they get discounted gas. The Russians have been using their so-called shadow fleet of tankers to move oil around the world to help fund their efforts in Ukraine. So neither the country is going to be happy. But at this point, with Maduro gone, there's not much that they can complain about. Hopefully, from here on in, we see free and fair elections in Venezuela and allowing the Venezuelan people to rule their country rather than the strongman Maduro.
And look, since they want to go with that narrative, Trump is going to war and trying to start a war, which is not a war. He just wanted oil, so he took Maduro as the president of Venezuela for the sake of oil. Okay, well, at the end of the day, we want peace amongst other countries, but we also don't want to get ripped off from other countries. But there's a trade-off, right? We all have resources and we trade together. And in the form of tariffs, Trump also said, look, we'll sell to you the same way you guys sell to us, and we have to pay. And for the longest, these other countries were just ripping us off and getting things for free, exporting things over here to America while we were actually paying for their resources. So yeah, what's wrong with resources being involved? And so what? What's wrong with that? So now I want to get to this clip in regards of Trump.
Bombing Venezuela.
Run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
Than the following points. Nicolás Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
we should make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolás Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States.
I give a round of applause to that. Grown men are back in office, like I said in the beginning when he got elected, re-elected, I should say, for President Donald J. Trump. So, with all that being said, a lot of people are just trying to spin what Trump said during this press conference, like he's talking about turning Venezuela into the 51st state. And they clipping it up saying Trump says we're going to run the country, but they're purposely left out the second half of the sentence. He said we'll run it until a proper transition is complete. Keyword transition. Which literally means we're holding it down temporarily until y'all get y'all new leadership together. Because you can't just snatch a dictator and then dip out the next day. That's how you get chaos. You need a middle step. Like a temp manager running a store until the real boss shows up. Otherwise, the employees, aka the military, the police, the bureaucrats, don't know who to listen to, and it turns into straight anarchy. So Trump said what any leader with common sense would say: we're going to hold it down, keep the lights on, make sure the people don't panic, make sure Maduro's goons don't start wilding out, and then we'll help transition to someone the people actually want. And yes, someone we want too. United States. Let's not be naive. We're not doing all of this out of pure charity now. Like, let's be real. There's oil involved. There's money involved. There's strategy involved. I mean, he did mention that we're going to go in and fix their infrastructure, which costs billions of dollars, to help their economy boom with their number one resource that has been lucrative for their economy to be booming back in the 70s and 80s, like I mentioned when I gave you the context. So yeah, we're helping them, and we're going to spend the billions of dollars to build their infrastructure up. And in return, what's the return on investment after restoring peace within your country, building the infrastructure up to basically monetize and get the most and extracting your number one resources that made you booming in the first place in the past and histories of 70s and 80s? Oil, right? So what? That's how the world works. Every country fights for resources. It's been that way since the beginning of time. Ain't no shame in it if everybody eats at the end of the day, right? And this part going to trigger some folks, but it got to be said. Yes, this benefits the U.S. and Venezuela. It's not a bad thing. We got a stable partner in the region. Remember, I mentioned trade wars. That's the whole point of the European Union, right? All other countries have resources and we trade off, but America has been getting ripped off for so long and we're not getting ripped off no more. And this is another example of mess around and find out, right? America is not playing. And then it works out because then Venezuelans that really wants to go back home and seeking asylum coming here to the United States and, you know, other countries, Brazil, seeking to get away from this dictatorship. Now they can actually go home and return home if they want to, because America is closed for shop right now because we got to get illegals out and restore and get rid of the bloat, fraud, waste, and abuse, and actually restore integrity, restore respect. And we done a phenomenal job under President Trump as he has closed the borders to actually enforce and protect America national security wise. So all of this plays a part, right? Because if you want a successful country, you have to have strong leadership. You have to have strong national security. You have to have resources. And then on top of that, the more resources, obviously, the economy can boom. And then also, you want return on investment. You don't want to keep printing money. You want to make sure that you're also bringing you. Not only are you trading off natural resources for, you know, United States, Canada, and things like that, and we have peaceful trade-offs, and we're building up each other's economies. But we want to bring money in too as well with the exporting process, right? Us shipping our product to them, and we're bringing money back into the country. because the more money we have, obviously we can pour into the more resources and build in our country, as United States has been phenomenal in us being the #1 country in the world. And that's why, because you have to continue to build infrastructure. You have to stay on top and be innovative, continue to stay at the top of the top and dominate. And domination has always been here since the beginning of time, the same way we have been fighting for resources since the beginning of time, which is how it's done, right? And ain't no shame in the game, right? Strategy in every country fighting for resources. And we got a stable partner now, like I said. We got access to oil instead of letting China and Russia swoop in and they get their country back. That's a win-win. But the left, the Democrats, the liberal apologists can't stand the idea because they hate American power. They're anti-American at this point, we could say, right? They hate when America wins, which is unfortunate. When they actually enjoy the ones who are enjoying the luxuries and the privileges of America, while they sit here on America and say the most anti-American thing as an American. It's wild to me, especially under Trump with the Trump derangement syndrome. But they'll rather Venezuela be poor and starving if it means Trump doesn't get a W. That's how broken their logic is and how delusion and ideology takes over the facts. And they obviously don't know how the real world works. So now I want to get over to CNN, right? Because CNN been twisting this thing, as we know that they are obviously the propaganda machine when it comes to them catering to the Democratic Party. So Trump ain't say that we staying forever in Venezuela. He's saying we need a temporary holdover. Someone like Marco Rubio, right? Who you seen speak in regards of him saying that, look, we have a president that he says what he means and means what he say, and he backs it up by action, not just press conferences and sending letters. And they lose their minds. They trying to act like we colonizing the country. Relax, because this ain't Iraq. This ain't Afghanistan. And that's another key point. This situation is different. Venezuela is a Catholic country. I'm Catholic. Spanish speaking, Christian values. They already lean Western. But anyway, check out this.
Moving moment by moment out of Venezuela, the de facto leader there has now for the first time appeared on camera, demanding the immediate release of Nicolás Maduro and his wife, calling their capture a kidnapping. Right now, meantime, Maduro, in that image you see him, it was posted by President Trump. He is on his way to the United States to face drug trafficking charges in the Southern District of New York. Meanwhile, the vice president of Venezuela, Maduro's vice president, her name is Delcy Rodriguez. She just spoke. We've got the audio in now. I want to play for you what she just said to Trump.
We demand the immediate release of President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, the only president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
Coming out against Trump. And that is extremely significant, not just because she saw what happened hours ago to the guy on top of her, but also because President Trump, we got the statement from Vice President Delcy Rodriguez of Venezuela, which I just played. So now we're awaiting Trump's response to that. What does this actually mean? You are there in Mar-a-Lago with the president. What's the response from him?
Yeah, and I don't think it will be a favorable response from the president. You know, he did sound fairly confident that Rodriguez would be going along with this plan. You know, after that press conference, he gave a phone call to the New York Post, and actually Rodriguez came up in that conversation. He was asked if U.S. troops would be on the ground in Venezuela running that country, and what he said was, quote, "No, if Maduro's vice president, if the vice president does what we want, we won't have to do that." And then he goes on to say, we're prepared. You know, we have a second wave that's much bigger than the first one. And so I do think, you know, now that Rodriguez is coming out and suggesting that she is not, in fact, on board with what the United States is doing down there, the president does seem to be setting up the prospect that the U.S. could go in with a second round of strikes. You know, he alluded to that in his press conference. He said that perhaps he didn't think it would be necessary, but saying pretty explicitly that he was ready to order that if if the remnants of the Venezuelan regime didn't necessarily, accede to the U.S. Running the country, which is what he said they would be doing. I think all of this just underscores how little we know about what exactly the U.S. role is going to be in Venezuela going forward. After the president came out and really kind of shocked all of us by saying that we, the United States, in his words, would be running Venezuela, and then offered essentially no details about what that meant. This back and forth now between the president and the vice president of Venezuela only, I think, emphasizes how little we understand of how this will all proceed going forward. And now, of course, you hear the president suggesting that there could be a U.S. military role to ensure that the U.S. is able to run Venezuela. He said in that press conference he wasn't afraid of boots on the ground. When I followed up with him and asked, does he envision a prolonged U.S. military presence in that country?
See, family, what CNN is trying to do is you already know how they do. They trying to spin this narrative like this woman is actually in charge now. Like she got some kind of power, like she really calling the shots, and she not. Let's just get that out the way early. CNN out here pretending like this woman got real leverage. Like she gonna stand up to United States military. Like she about to tell Trump and Marco Rubio what's gonna happen next. Now let me paint the picture for y'all. They just showed Maduro on TV in a Nike jumpsuit. The dude who used to run the whole country now looking like he just got picked up off the rec yard. That's symbolic. That's not just an outfit. That's a message. That's the U.S. saying, yeah, we really got him. We really dragged him out of the palace and put him in the sweats like he just got arrested outside of a Waffle House. So what do you think that this vice president lady finna do? She saw her boss get snatched the hell up. And she talking tough in public because she has to. That's what politicians do when the cameras is on. So she gonna act like she got a backbone left, so her people don't all jump ship. But behind closed doors, what she making them. She making them hush hush calls, right? Like okay, we'll do what y'all want, but because deep down she knows this ain't just some slap on the wrist. The U.S. military ain't playing right now. You don't go after a dictator unless you ready to go all the way if needed. So best believe she try. And like I say, I'm going for Marco Rubio being temporarily the president over there in Venezuela for now. I know that sounds crazy, but that's basically what's going on. Trump and the U.S. government appointed him to oversee the transition process. Now he is the king of Venezuela. No, but he's the face of the operation. He's like I said, the interim manager you bring in when the restaurant's in flames, and you need somebody who speaks the language, knows the neighborhood, and could put the pieces back together without everything falling apart. That's what Rubio is. So when people are saying, oh, this vice president still has power, she's the real president now. Bro, no. That's just liberal media cosplay that we seeing right now in this clip. That's fantasy. That's CNN writing fan fiction. On paper, sure, she's next in line, but in reality, she ain't got nothing. She got no control over the military, no control over foreign policy, and zero respect from the people who just cheered when Maduro got bagged up like a shoplifter at Target. So what's she really gonna do? Let's finish up.
He didn't really answer, and he sort of pivoted to talking about the oil, which we know has been sort of a preoccupation of his in Venezuela. And so, this is all setting up quite a dramatic, I think, day or week ahead as the U.S. works to ascertain who exactly is claiming power in Venezuela and works to assert their own power that the president now suggests that the U.S. has in Caracas, but without necessarily explaining what exactly that looks like and what exactly that could mean for the U.S. military going forward.
Kevin Liptak, thank you very much. And Paul.
You don't have to explain nothing. Because if you zoom out, all this talk about who's in charge, who's not, what Trump said or didn't say, all comes down to one word: leverage. Leverage. This whole operation is about leverage. That's the game Trump is playing right now. It's not about war. It's not about occupation. It's about using pressure, psychological, political, and military to force the people to still cling to power, to play ball or get out the way. Let me explain real quick for the folks in the back. Leverage is when you got options and your opponent know you got options. It's like you negotiating at a car dealership. If you walk in saying, I ain't paying more than $20,000, then guess what? You just gave away your power. But if you say, I could pay 20 or I could leave and go to another lot, now you got the leverage. And I've done that before. And the dealer got to play on your terms. Same thing here. If Trump comes out and says, we promise we're not going to do anything, even if you don't plan to drop another missile or put troops on the ground, put troops on the ground, not Trumps, put troops on the ground, you leave the possibility on the table. Why? Because the fear alone can change behavior. You don't have to throw hands if the other dude already scared to get knocked out. That's just leverage. That's common sense. And that's why people who didn't watch the whole press conference are out here panicking because they only heard one sentence. We are going to run the country. And they started crying and tweeting and writing. But if you listen to the full press conference, Trump explained it as clear as day. He said, we're not taking over Venezuela forever. He said this about transitioning to the government that Venezuelans want. But let's keep it real. Also one that we can work with too as United States. Because we're not about to sacrifice American resources, military strength, or political capital just to hand over power over to the next socialist clown. Nah, we want a stable, free, pro-American Venezuela. That's the goal. And that's why this vice president situation is such a joke, because the media wants y'all to believe this woman is going to stand up to Trump and say, no, we're keeping Maduro's regime in place. Like, how, bro? You think she got a secret army somewhere? You think she got some Avengers team ready to pop out? No, she's surrounded. Trump already dropped a message with the Nike jumpsuit. Play stupid, win a tracksuit. And that's the rest of the loyalists. No, they only got two options. You either fall in line or you fall out the game, period. So, yeah, it's an ongoing operation. That's why you're not going to get all the juicy details yet. This ain't a Netflix documentary. This is real life. You don't tell the enemy every move you plan to make while you still making it. That's dumb. But it's clear the goal is not to keep U.S. troops in Venezuela forever. The goal is not to run the country like a colony. The goal is to pressure the current government to step aside peacefully and let something new take root. Something that works for the people. And so the next time CNN or your favorite blue check on Twitter tries to gaslight you saying Trump is trying to start World War III or take over Latin America, stop them mid-sentence. Just say, nah, this ain't conquest. This is common sense. This is leverage. This is power being used with purpose. And that's how you win. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And let me know you guys take on it. At that note, family, peace.